Hey everyone, remember that whole thing about Pluto not being a planet anymore? You know, the big debate that felt like it was everywhere? Well, guess what? It just got spicy again. Seriously, the boss of NASA, Jim Bridenstine, just recently hinted that he might actually reevaluate Pluto's status. Yep, you heard that right. The head of NASA is talking about this. And it all kicked off because a really curious American girl wrote a letter just asking if Pluto could be a planet again. Bridenstine, being the good sport he is, actually said he'd look into it. So, for a really long time, like since it was first discovered back in 1930, Pluto was definitely the ninth planet in our solar system. It was way out there, just chilling. But then, in 2006, something big happened. A bunch of astronomers got together and actually voted it right out of the Planet Club. Poof. It became what we now call a dwarf planet. It was a huge deal. A lot of people were pretty upset, actually, and now, with this new development, everyone's wondering if we can actually reverse that decision. Can Pluto really make a comeback? We're gonna dig into why this even happened in the first place, and if a comeback is even something that's possible. Let's get into it.
So, why did Pluto get the boot from the Planet Club? It wasn't really because it was too small, even though it is pretty tiny compared to, say, Jupiter. The real reason actually had more to do with its neighborhood out in space. See, for the longest time, there wasn't a super clear official definition of what a planet actually was. It was just like generally understood. But in 2006, the International Astronomical Union, or IAU, which is basically the big international club for astronomers, decided it was time to get serious and make some official rules. They came up with 3 big requirements. First, a planet has to orbit the sun. That makes total sense, right? Second, it needs enough gravity to pull itself into a nearly round shape. We call this hydrostatic equilibrium. Think of it like this. If you have enough Play-Doh, it'll naturally just form a ball. If it's too small, it stays lumpy. But here's the kicker. The third rule. A planet has to have cleared its orbit. This means it's the biggest, most dominant thing in its path around the sun. It's swept up or pushed away all the other similar-sized stuff nearby. And guess what? Pluto failed this third test. It just hadn't cleared its orbital path. So it wasn't that Pluto itself changed or suddenly shrunk. It's that our understanding of our solar system and how we classify things totally evolved. So for most of the 1900s, we just thought Pluto was this lone ninth planet way out there doing its own thing. But then, as we got into the 1990s, our telescopes got way, way better. Suddenly, we started spotting tons and tons of other icy objects beyond Neptune. It was like opening a new door to a whole new part of our solar system. This led to the discovery of something super cool called the Kuiper belt. Think of it like a giant donut-shaped region, way out past Neptune, absolutely packed with icy bodies. It's kind of like an asteroid belt, but much bigger, much icier, and much, much further away. All of a sudden, Pluto wasn't just a lonely planet anymore. It was just one of many, many large icy objects in this huge Kuiper belt. Imagine you thought you were the only house on a really long, quiet street, and then one day you look around and realize you're actually just one house in a massive new subdivision. That's kind of what happened with Pluto. Then, the real kicker came in 2005 with the discovery of Eris. This new object was practically the exact same size as Pluto, and it also orbited out there, beyond Neptune. This really sparked a huge question for astronomers. If Pluto is a planet, then Eris should be too, right? And what about all the other stuff we were finding, like Haumea and Makemake? Astronomers had to make a pretty bold decision to sort out this cosmic traffic jam. So, if we wanted to bring Pluto back into the Planet Club, how could we even do that? What are our options, really? Well, there are 2 main ways this could happen. Option 1 is pretty straightforward, but also kind of huge. We could just change the definition of a planet. Again. Remember those 3 rules the International Astronomical Union set back in 2006? Overturning those rules, just 20 years later, would be a pretty big deal. In science, definitions are usually pretty solid once they're made because they help everyone speak the same language. Changing such a fundamental definition would definitely shake things up. The second option is to find something super special about Pluto, something truly unique that sets it apart from all those other icy objects we've found in the Kuiper belt. If we could say, hey, Pluto has this one thing that Eris, Haumea, and Makemake don't have, then maybe it could be a planet while they stay as dwarfs. So it's either change the rules for everyone or find Pluto's secret superpower. Both of these paths have their own challenges, and neither one is going to be super easy to achieve, as we'll see.
Okay, so let's dig into that first option for bringing Pluto back, changing the definition of a planet. A few years ago, back in 2022, some scientists threw out a really wild idea. They asked, what if we define planets by what they're made of and how they look, their geology, instead of where they orbit? So, this radical idea suggests that if a celestial body is big enough to be round because of its own gravity, and it has interesting features like volcanoes, an atmosphere, or even oceans, then boom, it's a planet. Under this rule, it wouldn't even matter if it orbits the sun, or if it's actually orbiting a giant planet like Jupiter. Now, if we went with this definition, Pluto would totally be a planet again. High fives all around for Pluto fans. But here's the twist, and it's a big one. Our own moon? That would be a planet too. And so would Jupiter's super cool moons, Io and Europa, plus Saturn's moon Titan, and a bunch of others. We'd suddenly jump from just 8 planets to dozens, maybe even hundreds. While this idea has some really neat scientific angles, especially for folks who study the nitty-gritty of planets, it would completely flip our understanding of the solar system on its head. It doesn't just bring Pluto back, it opens the door to a whole new crowd of planets. So, what about that second option we talked about? Can we find something truly unique about Pluto? Something that makes it so special that it just has to be a planet, setting it apart from all the other icy stuff out there? For a while, Pluto's thin atmosphere seemed like a really promising idea. It's mostly nitrogen, with some methane and carbon dioxide mixed in. Yeah, it's super thin, way thinner than Earth's, but it's definitely there, hugging the surface. We actually saw this so clearly in photos from the New Horizons probe. When it zoomed past Pluto and the Sun, we could see this beautiful, clear ring of light, which was sunlight scattering through Pluto's atmosphere. It was amazing. At the time, other icy objects way out there seemed to lack a stable atmosphere, which made Pluto feel pretty special, right? But here's the recent twist, and it's a big one. Scientists just found a thin atmosphere on another, much smaller Kuiper belt object. This little guy is called 2014 MU69, and it's only about 500 kilometers across, super tiny compared to Pluto. But guess what? It also has gas-bending starlight around it. This discovery is a real game changer because it suggests that even these tiny, super distant icy worlds can have atmospheres, maybe from crashes with other objects or even cryovolcanic activity, which is like icy volcanoes. So if other Kuiper belt objects can have atmospheres, even if they're temporary, then Pluto's special atmosphere isn't so unique anymore, making it even harder to argue that it should be a planet all on its own. So, while it's super tempting to want Pluto back in the Planet Club, especially for us here in America where it was discovered by an American astronomer and even inspired a Disney character, scientific classification just isn't about how we feel. It's really about having a consistent way to understand the universe around us. One country or even one big science group can't just change a global scientific definition that was decided by astronomers from all over the world. I mean, New Mexico might call Pluto a planet, and they might even have a Pluto Planet Day. But that's more of a cultural thing, you know, a celebration, not really a scientific fact. And here's the cool part. Pluto is absolutely amazing, whether it's called a planet or not. It's like the king of the Kuiper belt, representing these fascinating, far-out reaches of our solar system. Becoming a dwarf planet wasn't really a demotion. It was more like finding its rightful place in a much bigger, more complex neighborhood of icy worlds. It actually shows us how much more there is to explore and learn out there. Think about this. Pluto was only discovered in 1930, and it takes 248 Earth years for it to orbit the Sun just once. So, it hasn't even completed one Pluto year since we found it. In that relatively short time, it's been a planet, then not a planet, and now there's this whole debate about bringing it back. Talk about an eventful life. I totally love Pluto, and its story truly helps us understand just how dynamic and surprising our solar system really is. Thanks for joining me on this cosmic chat.